My name is Ann Kaufman. I'm 35 years old, but the first time I realized I didn't exist to my family, I was 23, fresh out of college, sitting at a long table where the crystal chimed and the turkey steamed, and my father lifted his glass for the ritual that always came between the bird and the pie. Let's take a moment to celebrate our successful children. He said it every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every Easter, every gathering, with more than 10 relatives jammed around the oak, and every time, the same choreography. He'd turn his shoulder to face my sister. Sarah, partner track at Henderson and Associates at 32. We're so proud. Applause, laughter, a kiss on the crown of her head. Then he'd pivot to my brother, James, regional director at Apex Financial, youngest in company history. More applause. James would lift his glass and say something about hard work and great teams. Someone would refill his wine. And then Dad's eyes would skim right over me as if I were part of the table runner and land on our cousin. And Derek, promoted to senior analyst at Morrison Tech, the Morrison name making waves. Toast, cheer, drink. Cue dessert. The first time it happened, I thought it was a slip. We were at Thanksgiving, and I'd just begun my first IT job. Not glamorous, but honest. When the toast ended without my name, I smiled and told myself, he forgot. It happens. At Christmas, it happened again. I thought maybe my job's not impressive enough. Fine, I'd earn it. By Easter, when the same script played, like a syndication rerun, I understood. It wasn't an oversight. It was a worldview. It seeped into everything. At dinners, conversation clung to Sarah's cases and James's deals and Derek's sprints. When someone tossed me a question, I'd just begin, we shipped a feature this week, and someone would cut across it. Sarah, tell them about Harrison. Or Mom would remember something urgent for James. I learned the art of soft landing a sentence no one was listening to. At 25, when I became senior developer, I brought cupcakes to Easter dinner, stupidly hopeful. That's nice, honey, Mom said, already turning. Sarah, the Harrison case. Everyone has to hear this. The room leaned toward Sarah. My news slid off the table. Unnoticed sugar on linen. At 26, I bought a used Honda with cash I'd saved. I parked it out front for the barbecue, washed and shining in the sun. Dad patted my shoulder. Good for you. Then to James. Did you lease the BMW? The next 20 minutes were about German horsepower. No one asked me what it felt like to earn something by myself. By 27, when I moved into a better apartment after a raise, I tried one last time. I signed a new lease, I said at Thanksgiving. Mom murmured, eyes on her phone. James, tell everyone about your bonus. By the time I turned 29, 2 days before Thanksgiving that year, I'd stopped expecting anything. But birthdays are loud even when you pretend they're not. After dinner, in the kitchen with sudsy water and clinking plates, I asked Mom, "Did you know my birthday was Tuesday?" She blinked. "Oh, was it? I'm sorry, honey. Things have been so busy." We never did anything next week. A hairline crack became a fracture. I started counting. Family group chat. 847 messages in 3 months. Sarah's promotion, 67 congratulations. James's new house, 43. Derek's engagement, 89. My promotion to lead developer, 6 months before, 3. My aunt, congrats. A cousin, nice. And my mom, a thumbs up. I took screenshots and filed them in a little folder on my phone, not for proof, but to stop gaslighting myself. That Christmas, I placed my glass on the table when Dad rose. Our successful children, he intoned. Sarah, youngest junior partner in firm history. James, headhunted by Goldman. Derek, wedding planning is going great. The applause felt like hail on a tin roof. I didn't lift my glass. Mom noticed. "Anne, aren't you going to..." "To what?" I asked. "Toast to whose success?" She frowned. "Family, success, all of you kids." "All of us?" The room quieted. I looked around at the faces I'd memorized like a chore chart. "I got promoted to lead developer in June," I said. "I managed 12 engineers. I bought a condo in August." Silence. "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Mom tried. "Why didn't you tell us?" "I did, in June, and again in August." More silence. Dad cleared his throat. "That's great, Anne. We're proud." "Are you?" My voice was very calm, which scared me. Then why am I never in the toast? In 8 years, you've never said my name. You're being dramatic, Sarah said without looking up from her phone. Am I? I scanned the table. What day is my birthday? The quiet was a live thing. It crawled. Grandma said gently, March 15th. She was the only one who knew. I stood. You love the picture of a complete family, I said, but you don't love me enough to know my calendar. I reached for my coat on the back of the chair. Where are you going? Dad asked. Home. To my condo, none of you have asked to see. To my job, none of you can actually describe. Sit down, Mom pleaded. We can talk. We just did, I said. What do I do for a living? No one answered. That's what I thought. In the car, my phone buzzed with nothing from them. The streetlights smeared in the rain. When I got to my condo, I opened the family chat and stared at the numbers. Then I left the group. It took 3 weeks before anyone noticed. No one asked why. 2 months later, I had an offer. Senior engineering manager at a San Francisco startup. Triple salary, real equity, a chance to build from the studs. I took it, sold the condo, packed my life into boxes and the trunk of my trusty Honda. Evan stood in my doorway the night before I left, hands in his pockets, trying not to look like he wanted to argue with destiny. He had been there through the small wins no one clapped for, the late nights, the microwave dinners. You sure about this? He asked. His voice was soft, the way you speak to someone on a cliff edge. I'm sure. They're going to call when the world calls, he said. People like that, they only see you when everyone does. Good thing I'm not performing for them, I said. He hugged me. We both knew the geography might crack us. I told myself that if a thing was real, an ocean couldn't kill it. I didn't account for the undertow of becoming. 3 months after I crossed the state line, my mother rang. I let it go to voicemail, then called back. You missed Easter, she said. I moved to San Francisco, I answered. You what? In February. New job. Why didn't you tell us? I did. In the family chat before I left. A long pause that sounded like scrolling through old messages never opened. Oh. When are you visiting? I'm not. What do you mean? I mean, I'm building a life here. But family... You're people I'm related to, I said. That's not the same. I hung up. She called twice more. I didn't answer. In the beginning, San Francisco was 3 people and a bad lease in a building that smelled like coffee and ambition. The founder. 1 other engineer. Me. We were building an AI-powered analytics tool that sounded boring at dinner parties and indispensable in boardrooms. We slept under our desks some nights and laughed about it in the morning. At 6 months, the founder said, Anne, I need you to lead engineering. The team was 6. The plan was 20. The work was a clean, bright burn. For the first time, what I built clanged in the air, and other people heard it. I didn't post about it. I didn't text the news. I learned the shape of silence that's chosen. I learned that applause is nice, but alignment is oxygen. That summer, Evan flew out once. We held hands on a windy pier and pretended the new life wouldn't eat the old one. As he boarded his flight back, he squeezed my fingers and said, Promise me you won't let them touch what you're building when they finally notice. I promise, I said. He was right about more than the distance, but I wouldn't learn that until a camera found my face and the word visible started trending. For now, I coded, I hired, I built. I stopped waiting for my name in anyone's toast because I was learning to raise my own glass. The first 6 months in San Francisco felt like oxygen after years of recycled air. For the first time, no one saw me as Sarah's sister or James's quiet sibling. I was just Anne Kaufman, the woman who fixed impossible bugs and built clean systems from scratch. Next-gen analytics started as 3 people jammed into a co-working space that smelled like stale espresso and ambition. By month 8, we had our own office, barely bigger than a closet, but it was ours. I bought secondhand monitors, patched up old servers, and wrote code until dawn. There was no applause, but there was something better. Progress that didn't require permission. The founder, Chris, was a visionary wrapped in chaos. He once told me, Anne, this thing will change the way companies see their data. I laughed. You mean if it stops crashing every 5 minutes? He grinned. Exactly. That's why you're here. Every bug I crushed, every new client we landed, it stitched me back together. The silence from home didn't sting as much anymore. I'd muted the family chat months ago, But sometimes I'd peek. They'd added photos from Derek's wedding, Sarah's promotion party, James's ski trip. My name didn't appear once, not even a question mark. That was fine. I'd stopped waiting for people who only looked up when you made noise. By the end of year 1, we'd landed our first Fortune 500 client. By year 2, 3 more followed. I was promoted to VP of Engineering before my 31st birthday. When the email announcement went out internally, Chris said, "You've built half this company, Anne. Time everyone sees it." I smiled but didn't correct him. Time everyone else sees it, sure, but the right everyone, not my family. Evan called to congratulate me. "I saw the press release," he said. "VP Kaufman sounds dangerous." "You think?" "I know," he said, his voice half laugh, half sigh. "You're doing everything you said you would." He paused. "Do you ever think about coming back east?" I stared out the window at the California skyline. "No," I said. "Not yet." We didn't talk for weeks after that. Sometimes that's how goodbye sounds. 2 years later, Next Gen Analytics wasn't a startup anymore. It was a force. 50 employees, 10 million in annual revenue, investors calling. I had a corner office with a view that looked like possibility itself. When Forbes profiled Chris for Women Leading in Tech, my face wasn't on the cover, but my fingerprints were all over every quote. At night, when the city blurred into gold lights, I'd think about my father's toast, the words he always used. "Let's celebrate our successful children." I used to imagine interrupting him, glass in hand, saying, "You forgot one." Now I didn't need to. Every milestone here was its own toast, quiet but earned. And then came the call that changed everything. It was from Bloomberg Technology. They wanted to feature us in a segment about rising AI startups. Chris couldn't make it, family emergency, so he said, "Anne, you handle it. You're the heartbeat of this place." I almost said no. Cameras weren't my thing, but something in me, maybe that same quiet, hungry part that had sat invisible at so many tables, whispered, "Do it." The interview was simple. 30 minutes with host Emily Chang. We talked about algorithms, enterprise data, and future trends. Then she asked, "What inspired you to build this company?" I hesitated, then said the truest thing I'd ever said on record. "I spent a lot of my early career feeling invisible," I said. "Working hard, achieving things, but never feeling seen. I wanted to build something that made invisibility impossible." Emily tilted her head. "Invisible how?" I smiled softly. "Sometimes you can be surrounded by people and still feel unseen, so I built something that would speak louder than I ever could." She nodded. "And now you're VP at a company changing the industry. Seems you've been seen." I laughed. Finally. The interview aired on a Tuesday evening. I turned off my phone afterward, cooked myself pasta, and forgot about it. By Wednesday morning, my assistant was at my door. "Anne," she said breathlessly, "you're trending." "What?" "Your clip, the invisible quote. It hit 5 million views overnight." By noon, the story had headlines everywhere. "Invisible no more. Woman in tech inspires millions." People began sharing their own stories of being overlooked. Teachers, engineers, nurses, artists. The comments were filled with "Me too," and "Thank you for saying this." By the weekend, I was invited to Good Morning America, then Forbes, then People magazine. I sat on a couch under blinding lights, answering questions about success and self-worth, about being the woman who turned invisibility into innovation. When the host asked, "Do you feel visible now?" I said, "I feel valued. Which is better?" The segment hit 15 million views in 2 days. Our company website crashed. Our inbox flooded with partnership requests. And somewhere, thousands of miles away, my last name was lighting up group chats that had once forgotten it. I didn't know it yet, but that interview would set off an avalanche back home. By Friday, I had 47 missed calls, unknown numbers, local Ohio area codes. I ignored them all. On Monday, my assistant walked in looking nervous. "Anne, there's a man downstairs. He says he's your father. He's been waiting 20 minutes. The world stilled. I closed my laptop. "He flew here?" She nodded. "He said he won't leave until you talk to him." I took a long breath. "Tell him I'll be down in 10 minutes. Then I made him wait every second of those 10. When I finally stepped into the lobby, I barely recognized him. Grayer, smaller. His suit hung loose, as if pride itself had kept him filled out all those years. "Anne," he said, standing, his voice cracking with relief. "Thank God. I was worried you wouldn't see me." "I almost didn't," I replied. He started to say something, apologies maybe, but the words fell apart under his breath. "We saw the interview," he said. "Your mother cried. We're so proud of you." I folded my arms. "You saw me because the world did first." He winced. "That's not fair." "It's not? You didn't know where I lived. You didn't know what I did for a living. You didn't even know how old I was. But suddenly, after a camera crew, it's urgent?" He said nothing. For once, silence belonged to me. Finally, he whispered, "We failed you." "You did," I said. "Every toast, every dinner, every forgotten message." He tried to smile. "We can start over, can't we?" "No," I said quietly. "You can start over, with yourself. I already did." I turned and walked away. In the reflection of the glass doors, I saw him slump back into his seat, hands over his face, and I felt nothing. No triumph, no revenge, just relief. For the first time in my life, being invisible felt like freedom. When the Bloomberg interview aired, I didn't expect it to matter beyond a few LinkedIn shares. But within days, Invisible No More had gone everywhere. Morning shows, think pieces, podcasts. My inbox overflowed with messages from strangers saying my story felt like theirs. Teachers, nurses, coders, even stay-at-home parents wrote things like, "You put into words what I couldn't." I should have felt proud. Instead, I felt exposed, because now everyone could see me, including the people who'd never bothered to look. That Friday morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. Unknown numbers, voicemails full of breathless messages, then an email from my assistant. Family members attempting contact. She'd received 17 calls in one day. Mom, Dad, Sarah, James, Derek, even 2 aunts, each insisting they needed to talk to me immediately. I told her, "Tell them I'm unavailable, indefinitely." She nodded, relief flickering behind her professionalism. "You got it." I thought that would be the end of it. By Monday, I was wrong. Emails flooded my personal inbox. "Proud of you. Let's reconnect. It's been too long." None of them said, "I'm sorry." They said, "We're so proud now." My phone rang again. Unknown number. Ohio area code. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. "Hello?" Silence for a second, then, "Anne, it's Sarah." My sister's voice. Smooth, cautious, as if stepping onto thin ice. I didn't say anything. "Wow," she continued. "I saw you on Bloomberg. You were amazing. Dad said you're a VP now. That's incredible." I leaned back in my chair. "Is that why you called?" "Well, I mean, also to catch up. We've all been talking about you. Mom can't stop crying." "Crying?" I repeated. "Why?" "She feels bad, Anne. We all do. We just didn't realize." "Didn't realize what? That I existed?" Her pause told me everything. "That we took you for granted," she whispered. "Sarah," I said quietly, "you didn't take me for granted. You erased me." "I'm trying here. So am I. That's why I'm hanging up now." "Anne, wait." I ended the call. 5 minutes later, another came through. "Mom." I stared at the screen until it went dark. That night, I worked late. The office was empty, except for the city glow outside my window. I thought about Dad in the lobby the week before, about his trembling voice, about how years of silence had turned him into a stranger with my face in his eyes. When I finally got home, I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop. Dozens of new connection requests. LinkedIn, Instagram, even my old college Facebook. Every one of them from my family. Sarah Morrison wants to connect. James Morrison wants to connect. Mom wants to follow you. They hadn't even sent messages, just digital hands reaching across the gulf, pretending it hadn't been carved by years of neglect. Delete, delete, delete. The next morning, Chris knocked on my office door. "You good?" "Define good." He grinned sympathetically. "You're trending worldwide, and your parents apparently want to move into the comments section." I noticed. He hesitated. "You want me to have PR handle them?" I smiled faintly. "No need. This isn't a PR problem. It's history catching up." He left, and I turned back to my work. But focus was impossible, because deep down I already knew they weren't done. And I was right. That afternoon, my assistant poked her head in again. Anne, I think you'll want to hear this. She slid her phone across my desk. On screen was a local Ohio newspaper headline. Local CEO's daughter makes national headlines. Underneath was a photo of my father, smiling proudly beside Mom, both standing in front of our old house. The article quoted him. We couldn't be prouder of our Anne. She's always been brilliant. Family means everything to us. My stomach turned. They'd turned me into a PR trophy. The same people who'd forgotten my birthday were now giving interviews about how they always believed in me. I called the paper's editor immediately. This is Ann Kaufman, I said. The person your article's about. Did my parents contact you? He sounded startled. Yes, ma'am. They reached out after seeing the Bloomberg piece. Said you were happy for them to speak on your behalf. They lied, I said. Please retract the story. He stammered. Of course, Yes, understood. I hung up before my anger could bleed into tears. That weekend, I received an unexpected text from a number I hadn't saved in years. Evan, just saw you on Good Morning America. I'm proud of you, Anne. You deserve every bit of it. My chest ached a little. Evan, steady, kind, the one who'd believed before anyone else. I typed back, Thanks, Ev. Hope you're good. He replied once, Better now. And that was that. No tangled drama, just closure. Simple and clean, like code that finally runs without error. By the following week, my family's attempts escalated. When I ignored calls, they switched tactics. Emails, company contact forms, even public comments on NextGen's LinkedIn page. My assistant filtered out dozens a day. Then one morning she appeared pale. Anne, your mom's in the lobby. I froze. She's what? She's downstairs. Says she flew in. She has a gift bag, and she's crying. I closed my laptop slowly, tell security to escort her out gently, and tell her I stopped, swallowing the lump in my throat. Tell her I'm unavailable. She said she won't leave until... She will, I said, eventually. For an hour, I stared at my reflection in the glass wall of my office. The city outside moved, unaware. I thought about walking downstairs, about giving her the conversation she wanted. But then I remembered standing in that kitchen years ago, asking her if she even remembered my birthday, and how she'd said she was busy. Some silences deserved to stay unanswered. When I finally left the office that night, the lobby was empty. The only trace of her was a small paper bag on the reception desk, lavender tissue paper folded over the top. Inside was a framed photo of me as a kid, maybe 10 years old, at a science fair with a blue ribbon in hand. On the back, Mom had written, We always knew you'd do great things. Love, Mom. I stared at the words until they blurred, then placed the frame in the trash bin beside the desk. The next day, Grandma called. Unlike the others, she didn't ask for anything. Sweetheart, she said, I saw your interviews. You were wonderful. Thank you, Grandma. You don't owe them a thing, she added softly. They'll try to claim you now. Don't let them. I won't. I just wanted you to know, she said, voice trembling. Someone always saw you, even when they didn't. That made me cry, for the first time in months. A week later, I learned my family had started planning a Morrison family reunion. It was all over Facebook, celebrating our successful family members. I was listed as a special guest speaker. They even included a corporate logo, NextGen Analytics, under sponsors. My assistant brought me the email. Anne, they actually sent us a sponsorship request. $5,000 and your presence on stage. I laughed so hard I almost choked on my coffee. Send them a polite decline, I said. Actually, send whatever you want. I don't care. Just make sure the answer is no. That night, alone in my apartment, I drafted one final email to my sister. Subject: about the reunion. Sarah, I saw that you're planning a family event and listing me as a speaker. Don't. You don't get to forget me for a decade and then claim me when it looks good. I'm not your success story. I'm my own. Leave me out of it. Anne. Then I blocked every number, every email, every social account connected to them. For years, they'd refused to see me. Now I was choosing to make myself invisible on purpose. The irony wasn't lost on me. It's strange how silence can change its flavor. The kind I used to choke on, the one filled with neglect, had turned into something almost tender. The quiet in my San Francisco home wasn't loneliness anymore. It was mine. After the family reunion fiasco, life went on. NextGen was growing faster than we could hire. Our Series C closed at a $200 million valuation. My title changed from VP to CEO after Chris stepped back. At 34, I was running a company with 200 employees, 4 offices, and more momentum than I could sometimes breathe through. But when people congratulated me, I didn't think about my success. I thought about my peace and how expensive it had been. Grandma and I spoke every Sunday. She never mentioned my parents unless I did. Our conversations were simple: her garden, my work, her stories about the stray cat that followed her around. One evening she said, "I'm glad you're happy, Anne." I smiled through the phone. "I am, really." "I know, sweetheart. I can hear it in your voice." Sometimes that was enough to keep the world upright. 6 months after the viral chaos, media attention died down. Our product kept improving, our revenue kept climbing, and I finally learned to enjoy what I'd built. Evan texted once, "Saw the TechCrunch feature." "You're unstoppable," I replied. "Thanks. Hope you're doing well." He liked the message, nothing more, clean, no leftover ghosts. But someone else wasn't as graceful. His ex-girlfriend, Lena, who still followed me online, started commenting under interviews and tagging my family members. Little things like, "So proud of Anne. Remember when you said she'd never make it, Sarah?" Funny how success changes who people suddenly remember. It was petty, but accurate. Still, I didn't reply. You don't throw stones from the mountain you've already climbed. Then came the IPO, $2.8 billion valuation. My shares alone were worth $380 million. The internet exploded again. Headlines: Invisible no more. Anne Kaufman, the CEO who built her own stage. I did a handful of interviews, but this time I knew better than to get personal. When asked about the family angle, I said, "I've learned that sometimes distance isn't a punishment, it's protection." That quote went viral too. People printed it, posted it, tattooed it. Some called me cold, others called me wise. I didn't care what they called me. For the first time, I wasn't performing for anyone's approval. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived at the office. Real paper. My name written in my mother's looping cursive. I recognized it instantly. I should have thrown it out. Instead, I opened it. "Anne, I don't expect a response. I know I don't deserve one. Your father and I have been in therapy, trying to understand what we did to lose you. When our counselor asked me to describe you, I realized I didn't know how. I knew your resume, but not you. I knew your milestones, not your heart. That's my failure, not yours. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just want you to know. I see it now. I see you. I'm sorry it took losing you for my eyes to open. Love, Mom." It was honest. Maybe the first honest thing she'd ever sent me. But it was also too late. Too many empty chairs. Too many forgotten birthdays. Acknowledgement after absence isn't redemption. It's echo. I put the letter in a drawer. Didn't tear it. Didn't frame it. Just let it exist, like an old scar I'd stopped touching. Weeks passed. The IPO whirlwind settled, and the world moved on to its next obsession. For the first time in years, I took a vacation. No press, no noise, just me. A rented cabin near Lake Tahoe and a stack of unread books. On the third night, my phone buzzed with an email from Grandma. Subject: a small update. Your mother asked if I could forward you a photo from this year's Christmas dinner. She says your name was finally in the toast. I told her I'd only send it if you said it was okay. Love, Grandma. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed back, "You can send it." A few minutes later, the photo came through. The same dining room, the same long table. Dad, standing with a glass raised. Mom beside him, eyes red but smiling. The caption under the image read, "Our successful children, Sarah, James, and Anne, who taught us what really matters." For a second, I thought I'd feel something. Relief, closure, something. But I didn't. I looked at their faces, frozen mid-toast, and realized they were still performing. Still toasting for an audience, not from the heart. I deleted the email and put the phone face down. That night, I sat outside on the cabin deck, the sky clear enough to see every star, and whispered to no one, "You're late, but I've already moved on." The next morning, Grandma called again. "Did you see the photo?" she asked. I did. "What did you think?" "That it was the nicest thing they never said to me," she chuckled softly. "That sounds like you." "Maybe," I said, "but I think I'm done being the lesson in their story." "You've earned that," she said gently. "You've earned your peace." I looked out at the lake, quiet and endless. For the first time, I didn't feel invisible or angry. I just felt whole. When I returned to San Francisco, the office surprised me with a small celebration. No media, no speeches, just my team, the people who'd seen me before the cameras ever did. They raised their glasses, paper cups, mismatched and messy. Chris grinned. "To Anne," he said, "who built something that sees everyone." That was the only toast I needed. I lifted my cup, smiling. "To being seen," I said, and never needing permission for it again. And as laughter filled the room, I realized something simple and perfect. They didn't just see me, they valued me. And that made all the difference. It had been almost a year since the IPO when life finally felt normal. No interviews, no articles, no viral headlines. Just work, laughter, and evenings where I could breathe. That's when it happened. The kind of coincidence that feels like the universe testing your boundaries. I was in Chicago for a tech conference. NextGen was sponsoring the keynote, and I'd agreed to speak about innovation and leadership. I didn't tell anyone back home. Why would I? Chicago was only an hour from where my family lived, but those miles might as well have been oceans. The talk went well. 30 minutes, standing ovation, polite applause that didn't mean anything beyond professional respect. Afterward, I stepped out into the convention hall, scanning the crowd for my assistant. Then a voice behind me said quietly, "Anne?" I froze. I knew that voice, older now, but unmistakable. "James?" I turned. My brother stood a few feet away, conference badge dangling around his neck. He looked smaller than I remembered, not in size, but in presence. His tie was crooked, his expression uncertain. "I didn't know you'd be here," he said. "I saw your name on the schedule and I just wanted to hear you speak." I nodded once, cautious. "And?" "You were incredible," he said softly. "I mean it." "Thank you." Awkward silence expanded between us. 10 years' worth of unspoken things. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Just 5 minutes." I hesitated, then gestured toward an empty lounge nearby. 5. We sat facing each other, the hum of the conference fading around us. He fidgeted with his badge lanyard, eyes on the floor. "I read Mom's letter," he said finally, "the one she sent you last year." "Oh?" "She told us about it. She's been different since therapy. So has Dad, in his own way." I said nothing. He swallowed. "I wanted to write too, but everything I drafted felt like an excuse. So I'm just going to say it straight." He looked up, eyes red. "I'm sorry, Anne, for everything. For never seeing you. For every toast that left you out. For sitting at that Christmas table and saying nothing. You were right. We treated you like you didn't matter, and I was part of that." His words hung in the air, heavy and raw. I took a long breath. "Okay," I said quietly. He blinked. "Okay?" "I accept your apology." He exhaled, relief flickering across his face. "Does that mean—" "It means I believe you mean it. But it doesn't mean I want a relationship." The light dimmed in his eyes, but he nodded slowly. "That's fair." "You can't fix years of absence with one conversation, James," I continued. "And I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done." He nodded again, voice breaking. "I think about it every day, how blind we were. It makes me sick." "That's yours to carry," I said gently, "not mine." He smiled faintly through tears. "You sound like Grandma." "She was the only one who taught me peace wasn't the same as pretending." He rubbed his face, embarrassed. "You really don't hate us, do you?" "No," I said. "I just stopped needing you." We sat quietly for a while. Then he stood and offered his hand. "Thank you for talking to me." I shook it. "Take care of yourself, James." He started to walk away, then turned back once. "You were right about everything, you know." I smiled faintly. That's the problem with being invisible. By the time people see you, it's already too late. And then he was gone. On the flight back to San Francisco, I looked out at the clouds and thought about the last decade, the dinners, the toasts, the years of silence, the sudden spotlight, the apologies that arrived with a stamp. I'd spent so long chasing visibility. Now I finally understood. Being seen isn't the same as being known. 3 months later, I received another email from Grandma. Subject: Your mother wanted to send you this. It's a photo from Christmas. Let me know if you want me to forward it. Love, Grandma. I typed back, "Sure, send it." A minute later, the image appeared. My family around the table, just like old times. Dad standing, glass raised. Mom smiling through tears. Sarah and James beside him. Below it, Grandma had added a note. This year's toast included your name. Dad said, "To our successful children, Sarah, James, and Anne, who taught us what really matters." I looked at it for a long time. 8 years of being invisible, 2 years of being headline visible, and now a single toast made to an empty chair. I deleted the photo, not out of anger, but because I no longer needed proof. That night, I hosted dinner at my home in Palo Alto. My team was there, the engineers, designers, product leads, people who'd built something alongside me without needing to own me. When dessert came, Chris, still my closest friend, tapped his glass with a spoon. "Before we dive into pie," he said, "I just want to say something to Anne for reminding us that being seen starts with seeing others." Everyone raised their glasses. I laughed softly. "You know I hate toasts," I said. "Too bad," he replied. "You deserve this one." I lifted my glass, surrounded by real faces, real care, real belonging. And for the first time, I didn't feel small or hungry for validation. I just felt alive. Later that night, alone on the balcony, I texted Grandma. "Thank you for always seeing me, even before anyone else did. I'm happy, Grandma. Truly happy." She replied a few minutes later. "I know, sweetheart. That's what I always wanted for you. Be visible, but never for them, for yourself." I put my phone down, looked at the stars, and smiled. I'd spent my 20s begging for acknowledgement, my early 30s proving I didn't need it, and now at 35, I'd finally learned the simplest truth of all. You don't have to be seen by everyone. You just have to see yourself, clearly and without apology.